received the instructions in the dressing room. Know what I expect, a good, clean fight. Ya recibieron las instrucciones que una pelea limpia. Legal punches, golpe legales, here for you. Here for you. Touch gloves, good to both of you. Buenas tardes los dos.
Tim, they told Esteban Sanchez, the good news, you're coming to America. You want to hear the bad news?
My favorite movie. Go ahead.
He had to fight Keyshawn Davis, Olympic silver medalist. Now he has to fight Karlos Balderas. There's a change in the referee for this fight. Raul Caiz Jr. will be the third man in the ring. He's adjusting Karlos Balderas' trunks as he brings them to the center of the ring. Ready for our second fight of the evening. Bernardo Osuna alongside former world champion Timothy Bradley. And what would progress be for a fighter at the talent level of Karlos Balderas in his 15th pro fight?
Again, it's all about being the ring general, controlling every aspect of the ring. You know, I'm looking for Balderas to take his time. He's in there with an experienced fighter. You know, Keyshawn Davis, it took him some time to really break down Sanchez. Let me see how well Balderas can break him down.
Absolutely. It happened in 6 rounds at the hands of one of your double stamp prospects in Keyshawn Davis last time out, April 30th at the MGM Grand. And there's nothing better for a young fighter than to be measured directly. And right here, Sanchez is measuring Balderas with the right hand to the chin.
Yeah, Balderas is sitting still. He's not moving, you know, side to side. You know, minor steps moving side to side, getting off the line. He's staying right in front of Sanchez, and Sanchez is just teeing off on him.
It's a big night for Balderas, who is fighting at lightweight, as well as Raymond Murataya, because they need to separate themselves. Top Rank has a great crop of young up-and-coming talent at 135 pounds, and you need to be beyond special to keep moving up towards the belt, because Shakur's now in division. Devin Haney is the undisputed champion. Lomachenko is back. I mean, it's a crowded place to be a top-ranked prospect at 35.
35 and 140 pounds, Bernardo.
Absolutely. Sanchez is a lot more comfortable with the style that Balderas is presenting here in the early going.
Well, the problem is right now for Balderas is he's not using his jab. He hasn't established his range just yet. You know, that could be the inactivity. Once he establishes his range, he should be okay. But as of right now, Sanchez is just taking advantage of him, using the high guard directly in front of him, making himself a punching bag. That's what he's doing, Balderas, right at this moment.
5th fight under trainer Buddy McGirt for Karlos Balderas out of Santa Maria, California. There's that stick that Balderas needs to start using to establish ring generalship, but Sanchez comes back with the same shot.
See, Balderas, you see his feet directly planted to the canvas right there. You see, that's the problem he's having right now.
Oh, there's a left hook that wobbles Sanchez. And a left hook that's about to put him down. What a flurry of punches from Balderas.
Oh, my goodness.
Longest 20 seconds of the career of Esteban Sanchez, and we talked about looking impressive. Karlos Balderas trying to send a message to whoever needs to hear it. But now he's taking his time. And he gets caught with the right hand from Sanchez. He understands a hurt fighter is a dangerous fighter. He didn't do much this round, but he did what counted.
He did enough. He did exactly enough at the right time.
And you've got to change things up here. You have to feint. You got to go to the body. All right, this is how it went down, Tim.
High guard. There it is. High guard entice. Sanchez in range, mid-range, to almost inside. Shoots a jab. A combination right there. And you see Balderas. That's his punch right there, the left hook. He's constantly looking for that check left hook. Either he'll lead with it or he'll wait. He used the high guard right there and caught Sanchez right on the money to cause this knockdown. There's the follow-up shots right there. You know, he's a great finisher. You know, that's one thing that Balderas is. Once he gets you hurt, he definitely knows how to take you out.
3 shots that connected on that combination after the left hook stunned him. And then he went after him, and he was calm at the end of round number 1. A 10-8 round for Karlos Balderas here. Fight scheduled for 8 rounds at the Palm Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Let's see how round 2 plays out.
So now what Balderas is doing is he's trying to use the feint to move that right hand so that way he can sneak that left hook around. He just needs Sanchez to move it forward a little bit. He just missed it right there.
Balderas willing to take a couple shots on the gloves. That one gets to the forehead from Sanchez, but he's trying to set up a big shot.
The only thing that Balderas is missing, he's missing the head movement. He's not disguising his punches. You know, you need to move that upper body, move it forward if you're going to use that high guard. So that way, then you can slip punches at the same time. You know, if you want to know what I'm talking about, look at Canelo Alvarez. He does it the best.
Nice feint there from Balderas that Sanchez bid on, but he didn't throw anything, and so then Sanchez was able to land a combination.
Balderas is being patient. He's looking for Sanchez to do a little bit of work for him. He's looking to overcommit so that way he can place that left hook right on the chin.
The jab that Sanchez's corner is asking for, they're saying paralyze him with the jab, and then that'll set up a big shot. There's a stick from Balderas, triple shot.
You know, I had a problem in the past with Balderas. He was, you know, squeezing down on 130 pounds. A lot of guys, they just feel like, oh, I'm going to have the advantage. I'm a bigger man. I'm going to be strong at 130 pounds. But he was actually weakening his body, you know, and you can tell in his performances he wasn't as explosive as he is tonight. Now he's fighting at a comfortable weight, 135. Like you said, it's a loaded division, but he definitely has the talent to be here.
Yeah, sometimes being a weight bully can be counterproductive because you're melting yourself down so much and you're weakening yourself.
Yes.
That's Danny Trejo seeing himself on TV. Machete in the house. That jab, Balderas. Right on the forehead of Sanchez. There's a left hook, sets up a right hand. There you see the quickness and the power behind the shots of Balderas.
Yeah, I like the way he changes speeds, you know, rapidly. I love that. You know, a lot of fighters, they typically fight in one gear. You know, you can catch on to that gear. He explodes at the right times with the right punches.
All right, I mentioned Machete, and yes, Danny Trejo is in the house here at the Pearl Theater at the Palm Resort and Casino. You know him from Desperado, Dusk Till Dawn, and of course, Isadora Machete Cortez. He's in Spy Kids as well, so he owns a taco stand, and there's also a world champion in the house. Yes, Sean Porter, the former WBC and IBF welterweight champion, big podcaster now, always comes out to support the fights, and there is Showtime Sean Porter.
There he is, my God, Showtime Sean Porter. Love that guy. Great person, great fighter. You know, a lot of heart, ton of heart.
Keep your goddamn head moving. Don't give him no confidence. You understand? All right.
Speaking of great guys and former champions, there is one Buddy McGirt.
Buddy. Gotta love him.
Box.
Doesn't
Christmas.
mince words in there.
Well, Christmas is around the corner. I see him growing his beard out. Black Santa Claus.
Oh, my goodness. He would do it, too.
Oh,
What a body shot from Balderas.
God.
Left hook to the liver.
See, and see, now he's changing levels with that left hook. He's like, okay, you're not going to let me get it up top. Let me go down to the body so that way I can bring those hands down. Bring that right arm down so I can catch you up top.
Nice right cross as Sanchez was committing. Balderas got there first. And now Sanchez takes another body shot, but not before throwing a few shots of his own.
See, Sanchez is doing the right thing. He's getting the combinations off, and then he's getting at the right range afterwards, but needs to be careful not to get too greedy. And once he gets his offense off, he needs to change his location. He's standing in front.
You talked about the punch variety from Balderas, and he's starting off now with the lead right that sets up a body shot, and he did it twice early in the round, but he stays in range, and Sanchez lands a long right.
That jab is nasty from Balderas. It's a stab jab. I mean, it's hard, extremely hard.
And you see how Balderas is now setting his feet, looking for a big power shot, which you can do against a fighter like Sanchez, who's static as well.
Yes. Well, see, Balderas right now, he's getting used to that jab. The left hook is coming. The left hook is coming.
You could hear Buddy McGirt saying, step in with it. Oh, got caught right behind the ear by Sanchez, but Balderas able to take that shot.
See, a lot of the weight, that's beautiful right there. He slipped inside of the jab thrown by Sanchez and to throw the right hand. You see, but a lot of the weight of Balderas is on his front foot because he's constantly looking for that left hook. That's his intentions. So he sits in front a little bit too long. You know, when he should be moving side to side or moving out of range, he's sitting in front waiting to counter. That can be a good thing at times, and that can be a bad thing, depending on who you're in the ring with.
Balderas was taking the gym for the first time as a young man because he was getting into fights at school, getting suspended. They said, come back when you're 8 or 9. He ended up making the Olympic team for the United States as round 3 comes to a close. All right. One of his best punches, Tim, is the left hook, but Balderas throws it in different ways.
Woo! That right there was a counter in between. An in-between punch counter right there by Balderas. But I love his variation. That slip inside right there. Dig right down to the midsection, right on the belt line. Great work by Balderas. He needs to continue to do that. It all starts with that lead hand. That's what it starts with, the lead hand.
For the left hook too much. Come on, man. This. Listen, you got the guy where you want him. You got to keep him there. You understand? Hey, you listen to me? You can't let the guy get no confidence, man. Let's go. Step in with the jab and add the right hand to it.
So no communication issues in that corner. Karlos Balderas speaks Spanish. His uncle Zenon is in there training, as well as Buddy McGirt, who's speaking English. But later on, Buddy McGirt's going to try to be communicating with Janibek Alimkhanuly. And we talked to him about how do you guys communicate. He's like, hand signals and just the language of boxing.
That's it. That's all it takes.
And Buddy's not happy with Balderas allowing Sanchez to gain confidence and take the lead, as we see early on here. But then a jab just stops Sanchez in his track.
See, but that's what happens. I mean, you can't be satisfied with what happened, 2 rounds ago. You got to continue on that onslaught, continue to press forward, continue to dominate the opposition, just like he's doing now. Buddy told him right. You don't want your opponent to gain confidence and start to mount on his own attack.
And we talked about how important it was to look impressive. It took Keyshawn Davis 6 rounds to stop Sanchez last time out in his U.S. debut. And now Balderas dropped him in the first round and is kind of taking his foot off the gas.
Well, he's marching forward. He's using his jab a little bit more now, a lot more, I would say. But see, that's what was missing, the body work. I think whoever can invest in that body at this point in the fight, I think it's going to pay good dividends for them.
Here's that stick from Karlos Balderas.
Yeah, but do something off of it. You're landing the stick, but where's the follow-up punch? It's like you got peanut butter, but give me some jelly, too.
There's that jelly. That body shot came after another right hand, and you see the blood now flowing from the nose of Sanchez.
And then did you see Sanchez, how he moved, step back? That body shot hurt him just for a moment, but he got really good recuperative powers. You see, he's a tough guy.
Yeah, he's in shape, too. This is his second camp that he's done in National City under the guidance of Joe Vargas. So he's taking this venture into the United States seriously, but he's just been put in against top talents.
Come on. Balderas is letting off the gas. I don't know if he's not believing in his conditioning. I'm not sure what it is, but he needs to start putting those combinations together if he wants to get this Sanchez up out of there.
Yeah, that body work once again, very effective for Balderas, but then he allows 10 seconds to lapse before anything happens, and it happens to be Sanchez who gets it going.
And he stands directly in front. That's the problem. And I saw that in this last time out. He's in range. He stays in range to get hit with offense. And you just say, well, a lot of those shots ain't landing. A lot of those shots he's blocking on his gloves. Yes, something will eventually get around that guard. That high guard is not the safest guard, especially when you're in close.
We're halfway through this fight, and we will listen to Jose Vargas and Sanchez. Hey, you're resting too much and you're not listening. You're not walking him down. When you throw punches in series and quickness, you're having success. You have to throw fast punches. You have to walk him down. You're too relaxed. You need speed and you need balls here. You got to come forward. You got to throw 4 or 5 punch combinations. Not just 3 punches. Don't let him be first. You have to control it by throwing first. Not let him and then you go. No, you be first. And again, you take the reins of this fight. Take control. That was Jose Vargas.
Yep.
This is his second fight as Esteban Sanchez's lead trainer.
He's right. He's
100%.
right. You know, when you're dancing and you're going back and forth, you know, you cut a move and then, you know, your dance partner didn't cut a move. That's what's going on right now. One will start with a move and the next one will say, oh, I can top that. You know, you need to Sanchez needs to step up the tempo, change the course of this fight by stepping it up, stand on that gas pedal, letting those hands fly, because Balderas is there to be hit.
There's that jab from Balderas, and I think both corners are pretty much imploring their fighter to do the same thing, because Buddy McGirt wants Balderas on that stick and pressuring and punching on Sanchez, and Sanchez's corner wants the exact same thing, to take the initiative. You see a nice right from Sanchez.
Yep, split right between the guard. Come around that high guard. You can go right down the middle with the high guard. The uppercut's available. You can come around the elbows as well. The high guard used by Balderas.
Balderas' grandfather worked the strawberry fields out in Santa Maria for over 4 decades, so he's got that toughness in him. Used to go out on the fields as well with his dad and his uncle, so he knows what a hard life is outside the ring.
That jab is something else. You know, when you're getting hit in the face with a jab like that, like hard, you know, whatever plan you thought about, it immediately it erases. You know, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Bing, you hit with the jab, and it's like, what was I going to do again?
You have to reset.
Yes. Ooh.
Nice stick once again. A short left hook from Karlos Balderas, tripling up on that left. But here comes Sanchez. He does something good and then allows Sanchez to come back. And even though he's blocking a lot of those punches, why allow that to happen?
Yeah, Balderas is taking his time. He's taking his time. He has a few more rounds. He's just letting Sanchez wear down a little bit more. He probably still feels the ferocity of his punches. He feels the strength, and he's just saying, you know what, I'll turn it up in the next few rounds, but let me just continue to break him down mentally, destroy him mentally first, and then I'm going to take him out.
It looks like he's breaking him down good. You see the blood now on the chest of Sanchez emanating from his nose. Ooh. Nice right to the body from Sanchez, and that's what you risk when you allow a fighter to gain confidence, and that's what Buddy was saying after the 3rd round. Don't allow him to gain confidence. That's how you do it. Right hand and left hook to the chin.
Just a matter of time, people. It's a matter of time. The next few rounds, I don't know if Sanchez is going to be able to make it. If he does, he's one tough cookie.
Keyshawn Davis stopped Esteban Sanchez in 6 rounds. We will have a 6th round coming up here from the Pearl Theater at the Palms Resort. We've got a lot of action tonight. Our next 3 fights will feature Charlie Sheehy, the 17-time national amateur champion, stepping into the ring for the 5th time as a pro. That'll be next. And then that'll be followed by Cash Floyd Diaz. He'll be taking on Edgar Joel Cortez, who is a 16-fight veteran. And then we will have Javier Martinez taking on El Muñeco, Marco Antonio Delgado. Martinez, one of the most decorated amateurs as a middleweight, and now as a pro, he's got 7 victories, with 2 of those coming by stoppage. We talked about sending a message. It looked like he was doing that in the first round when Balderas dropped Esteban Sanchez with that left hook and the combination that followed. But now it's round number 6, and Buddy McGirt said, go knock him out.
He's saying step on the gas.
And it's Sanchez stepping on the gas early. There's desperation in Sanchez's corner. Ooh, nice right to the body once again from Sanchez. There's that counter left from Balderas.
So when you see a fighter steps back like that and you know, kind of change his stance, now he's moving directions. That's, you know, he's resetting himself. You know, he didn't like that series of combinations that landed on him, and now he's trying to do something different. That's what Balderas is doing now.
Behind that jab, triple stick now 4 times in a row. Left hook from Balderas, toying with Sanchez. Buddy McGirt says playtime is over.
If he wants to end this match, he needs to go down to the body a little bit more. You know, you hit the, you know, Sanchez up top with probably one of the hardest punches of this fight with the left hook, and he gets up and he's still standing. Why don't you invest in that body?
It's a jabbing clinic here in round 6 for Karlos Balderas. But there's no follow-up behind that jab. That's the frustration in the corner of Balderas, whether it's his uncle, David, his father, Senon, or Buddy McGirt. They want more.
See, Balderas just can't be happy with just, nice.
That right set up the left hook, and there's that stick jab that just snaps the head of Sanchez back.
Give me some more. Give me some more, baby. That's, you know, if you want to end this fight and you want to look spectacular, you want to send a statement to all the 135-pounders out there, he's going to have to pick up the pace and really show what he's made of.
Tim, he was a 2016 Olympian. He took the spot that belonged to Teofimo Lopez, who ended up representing Honduras instead of the United States in those Olympic Games. And you're talking about a Keyshawn Davis who just won gold in Tokyo, who may be ahead of him at this point. You can't allow fighters like Sanchez to survive if you want to take that step up.
Well, he's going for it. I mean, I think the referee definitely is taking a look at Sanchez. He's taking some big shots in this round, particularly that jab. That jab of Balderas is definitely doing a ton of damage. My goodness.
That nose continues to bleed, and Karlos Balderas now goes back to his corner for the 7th round.
Mr. Balderas, you got to start listening to us there, champ. Hey, you got to start listening to us, man. All right? You're not listening. Whenever you put combinations together, you hit the guy with every goddamn punch. Don't let him back in the fight. Okay? Don't let him gain no confidence. Double, triple your jab and shoot the straight right hand. Stop looking for the one shot. Okay? Stop looking for the one shot, Carlos. Feint him, but keep backing him up. Give him a little more water.
No para atrás nada, ni un paso, güey. No, good.
Don't take any steps back, not even one
Ni
step.
un paso para atrás, cabrón. Camínalo, güey.
You gotta walk him down. Now that's easier said than done, Tim. What they're asking out of Esteban Sanchez, it's more likely what Buddy's asking from Karlos Balderas and putting his foot down on the gas.
Yeah. You know, Buddy's trying to motivate and trying to inspire young man Balderas. But Balderas gotta accept it. And he has to do it.
He just has to execute. And like Buddy said, you got to listen. I mean, the instructions are the same in 2 languages, Spanish from his uncle and Buddy McGirt in English. And it's to pressure and finish this. And Sanchez there lands a good right hand. There's that stake from Balderas. Miss and pay. Oh, that was a little low. A lot low.
Ouch. I'm taking 5 minutes on that.
Bro, I'm taking 10. Bro, that one was, I heard that one.
Lord.
But you see the toughness. I don't know if there's a cut now on the left side of the head of Sanchez or if it's just the blood from the nose. How low was this, Tim?
How low can you go? Ooh, right, yeah. Ooh, man, that's right on there. Oh. How you say? He took it well.
If Kriegel tries to interview him after the fight, he'd be like, yeah, my name is Sanchez. Nice right hand there from Karlos Balderas. Now he follows up with the left.
Yeah, Balderas has about 1.5 minutes and another round, so another 3 minutes to see if he can execute and do the same thing that Keyshawn did. Of course, a little bit further in the fight, but it's all up to him. I mean, he has a guy right in front of him he's hitting him with every single shot, and he hasn't been able to mount an attack to take him out.
Hey, fellas, I don't mean to pipe in when it's not my time, but you know, Sanchez has something to say in this too.
He's tough.
Sanchez.
One of the things, by the way, one of the things you see in here is how much talent Keyshawn Davis has.
Absolutely. But we saw the talent from Balderas, and at the end of the day, it's just he did not follow through, and that's the big difference here, Tim.
I'm not saying he's not talented.
No, but,
excuse me, Tim.
But it doesn't matter how talented you are if you do not follow through with it.
Look, he's still growing as a fighter, and I'm not making any excuses for him. I definitely do see some possibly discipline issues. And I would say inside the ring, and I'm sure that carries outside the ring as well. It's interesting because the style of the fighter, you know, it kind of matches the temperament. And you can see the ones that will step up on the gas and be brave and come forward and press the issue. It's because that's the way they train. That's the way they work.
All right.
You know,
Kriegel, go take a break, man.
Balderas seems a little bit lazy to me.
Yeah, Kriegel needs to take a break because I'm going to do something. I'm going to let you guys call the next 2 fights. So go do your voice warm-ups, exercises, whatever it is you do.
Listen, Kriegel's always hollering about he want TV time. He don't get enough TV
Always.
time. You going to get it now. I'm going to sit right here and be quiet, and you going to talk the whole time.
I mean, don't get lazy this round. You
Mark,
understand?
let's give it a shot here. Usually it's Tim's job, but I said you're doing triple duty.
Let's go.
Mark Kriegel, walk us through the jabs that Balderas has been throwing
He's
tonight.
got a great jab.
That's it.
How great
Someone's
is
got to come with it.
Captain Obvious.
There it is.
What do you want me to say? Goes right down the middle. It's what comes after the jab. And Timmy's right. It went to the body a little bit. Wouldn't hurt.
You know, that was decent. That was decent. But you know what? You're gonna get better. You're gonna get better at that. All right. Don't worry.
Don't get lazy.
You're going to get
a lot better
slimmer.
at that.
Maybe.
Listen to me. If I get into the Hall of Fame, I'm gonna get slimmer. I promise you. All right. And if you voted for me, I love you. If you didn't,
I'm impervious to
I
politics.
hope you get a flat tire on the way home.
Don't try to soup me up now.
Round 8, the final round, one that maybe we didn't think we'd get to after Balderas dropped Esteban Sanchez and hurt him with a vicious left hook in the first round. Here we are, 7 rounds later. Nice quick jab from Balderas. Will he make a statement tonight, Tim?
I'm gonna guess. No.
He had a chance, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I mean, he still has time. What do you think, Kriegel?
I think that Sanchez is the kind of guy that tests you. And again, I go back to the Keyshawn fight. I don't, look, there are things that Balderas can do better, but you see his talent here.
He's doing it now. He landed a nice left hook, a quick uppercut, Now, will he follow it up? Does he have
There
it?
it
And
is.
then the stoppage
There
from
it is.
Raul Caiz Jr. made him do
Yes.
his job. And that's ultimately all anybody wanted to see. And it could have been
Yes.
earlier in the fight, Tim.
Yes, yes, yes.
Or it could have been not. He didn't have to stop it there.
Oh, man, look at Sanchez, bless his heart. I mean, he came here, he was game, he was tough, but he took a beating. A beating this entire fight. I don't think he won a single round. Yeah, he was
Do you think
somewhat
that
into
last
it.
sequence is the one that should have stopped it then?
Personally, I would have stopped the fight a long time ago. I would have stopped the fight a long time ago.
And then
if I
we'd
was
be
the ref.
talking about how good Balderas is instead of
No.
spinning it the other way.
No, at
He's
the
a
end
great
of the
fighter.
day,
He's a great fighter. I've told you, he's a great fighter. He's a talented
He's
fighter.
a great fighter. He means
Yes,
great
he
talent.
is. He's a great, talented fighter, man.
All right, let's take a look at why this fight ended and was it worth the referee stepping in, Tim?
Oh, yeah. Come on now. Balderas is hitting with power shots. Look at that shot down to the body right there. And look at another left hook in between the guard. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it was a little bit too much. I know Sanchez is complaining. I mean, fighters, we going to complain because hey, look, this is what we do. We fighters at the end of the day, bro. We'll take it. You hit us with the kitchen sink. Some of us fighters will take it, man. I've been in the fight of the year. I understand. And the fight probably could have been, my fight could have been stopped.
Yeah.
And I thank God that it wasn't stopped. But at the end of the day, you know what? It's all about the well-being of these fighters. And the referee, I thought, did
Timmy,
a great
what
job.
round are we in?
This is the last final round, 8.
Right. So if you're going to go this far, let the guy have his pride. Let him have what he came here for. Let him go.
No, you want to have him have his health,
All right.
and that's the most important thing. The job of
He's
the
been
corner,
through
the
the
referee,
worst.
is to make sure that the fighter goes back to his family nice and safe. All right, Mark Chinook with the official time of the stoppage.
Ladies and gentlemen, here inside the Pearl Concert Theater, referee Raul Caiz Jr. calls a stop to this bout at 1 minute, 2 seconds of round number 8 for your winner by technical knockout, King Karlos Balderas.
Balderas gets his 12th knockout in 14 victories. Esteban Sanchez